Someone is pounding on your door at 1 in the morning. You look through the peephole, a uniform, a badge, an authoritative voice telling you to open the door. Everything your brain has trained to obey since childhood, the uniform, the tone, the badge, is telling you this is safe. This is the police. Open the door. But there's no patrol car on the street, no flashing lights, no partner standing behind them. Just one person, in the dark, wearing a costume. Police impersonation is a federal crime in the United States. It carries up to 3 years in prison in most states, and it happens far more often than you think, because it works. We are hardwired to comply with authority. A uniform bypasses every instinct telling you something is wrong. These are 3 true stories from people who almost opened the door. I was 26, living alone for the first time. A 1-bedroom apartment in a quiet complex on the edge of a suburban neighborhood. I liked it. Safe area, good neighbors, well-lit parking lot. The kind of place where nothing ever happens. It was Tuesday around 11 at night. I was in bed, not quite asleep, scrolling my phone. I heard a knock on my door. Not a casual knock, an authoritative knock. 3 hard, evenly spaced hits. The kind of knock that makes your whole body tense up because it sounds official. Then a voice, male, firm. Police, we're conducting a welfare check. Can you open the door, please? My first instinct was to get up and open it. That's what you do when the police knock. You cooperate. You open the door and you ask how you can help. I was halfway to the door when something stopped me. I don't even know what it was. Not a thought. More like a feeling. A hitch in my chest. I went to the living room window instead of the door. I pulled the blinds back an inch and looked outside. I could see my front door from the window. A man was standing there. Dark clothing. Something that looked like a badge clipped to his belt. He was big, tall, broad shoulders. He looked like a cop. He stood like a cop. But behind him, the street was empty. No patrol car, no flashing lights, no partner. Just his car, a plain dark sedan parked at the curb. I knew something was wrong. Police don't do welfare checks in plain sedans. They don't come alone at 11 at night. And nobody had called in a welfare check on me. I'd spoken to my mom an hour ago. I went back to my room and called 911. I told the dispatcher someone was at my door claiming to be the police. She asked for my address. I gave it. She put me on hold for maybe 20 seconds. When she came back, her voice was different. Flatter. More careful. Ma'am, we have not dispatched any officers to your address. Do not open the door. Stay away from the door. We're sending a unit now. I sat on my bedroom floor with the phone pressed to my ear and listened. The knocking continued. 3 hits. Pause. 3 more hits. Pause. Then the man's voice again. Ma'am, this is the police. I need you to open this door. I didn't respond. I didn't make a sound. The knocking stopped. I heard footsteps, not walking away, walking along the side of my apartment. toward the back. I heard my back door handle rattle. Once, twice, it was locked. Then I heard footsteps going the other direction. A car door, an engine. By the time the real police arrived, 6 minutes later, the sedan was gone. The officer who responded told me I did everything right. He said they'd had 3 similar reports in the county that month. Different apartments, different complexes, always a single man in dark clothing with a badge, always alone, always late at night. He said in 2 of the other cases, the residents opened the door. I asked what happened to them. He said he couldn't discuss active investigations. I moved out of that apartment 2 weeks later. I've lived with a roommate ever since. I'm 29 now. I still don't live alone. A man, I'll call him Derek, was driving home from his brother's house around 1 in the morning. 2-lane road through a semi-rural area. Not remote enough to be scary, but dark enough that the only lights were his headlights and the occasional porch light set way back from the road. He noticed headlights behind him. Close. Too close. Then, the lights started flashing. Red and blue. Not on a light bar mounted to the roof. Mounted on the dashboard. The kind of unmarked setup you see in detective cars on TV. Derek pulled over. He put the car in park. Turned on his dome light. Put his hands on the steering wheel. He'd been taught to do that. Make yourself visible. Show your hands. Cooperate. The vehicle behind him sat there for about a minute. Then a man got out. He walked towards Derek's car slowly, flashlight in one hand, the other hand on his hip, on what looked like a holster. He was wearing dark cargo pants, a black jacket, and a utility belt with equipment hanging from it. He looked like law enforcement. He reached Derek's window and tapped it with a flashlight. Derek rolled it down. License and registration? Derek reached for his glove box. As he did, he looked at the man's badge. It was clipped to his belt, a metal shield shape. But there was no department name on it. No city, no county, no state. Just a generic star pattern with numbers that didn't correspond to any format Derek recognized. Derek had a cousin who was a state trooper. He'd seen real badges. He knew what they looked like. The department name, the state seal, the specific formatting. This badge looked like something you'd buy at a costume shop. Derek's hand was on the registration when he stopped. He looked up at the man and said, "I'd like to verify your identity with dispatch before we continue. Can you give me your badge number and department?" The man's face changed. Not angry, not confused. Blank. Like a mask dropping. He stared at Derek for maybe 3 seconds without blinking. Then he said, "That won't be necessary." Derek said, "I'm going to call dispatch." The man stepped back from the window. He turned around. He walked back to his vehicle without saying another word. He got in. He killed the red and blue lights. And he pulled a U-turn and drove away in the opposite direction at high speed. Derek sat there for 5 minutes before he could drive. His hands were shaking. He called 911 and gave them the location, the direction the vehicle went, and a description. They sent a unit. The vehicle was never found. Derek told me 2 things that still bother him. First, the man's hand was on a holster the entire time. Whatever was in that holster was real. If Derek had gotten out of the car when asked, he would have been standing on a dark road with no witnesses in front of an armed man who was not a police officer. Second, the red and blue lights on the dashboard were professional, not cheap. The kind of setup that costs money and requires intent. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't impulsive. Someone invested time and money into building a rig designed to make people pull over on dark roads at 1 a.m. And Derek was not the first car on that road that night. He was just the first one who didn't get out. This story was posted on Reddit. It went viral. Thousands of comments, people sharing it in group chats with the message, "Read this and make sure your doors are locked." I've verified what I can, and the details are consistent with police reports in the area. I'm sharing it with the poster's permission. The person who wrote it, I'll call him Jordan, was home alone on a weeknight, 12:45 in the morning. They were in bed, half asleep, when pounding started on the front door. Not knocking, pounding. The kind of impact that shakes the door frame. Heavy, rhythmic, aggressive, like a fist trying to go through wood. Then a voice, loud, commanding, "Police, open the door. We have a report of a disturbance at this address." Jordan's adrenaline spiked. They got out of bed and went to the front door. Through the peephole, they could see a figure, full uniform, dark shirt, equipment belt, badge on the chest, hand resting on a holstered weapon. The porch light was on, illuminating the figure clearly. But behind the figure, nothing. No police cruiser, no flashing lights, no second officer. The street was dark and empty. Jordan backed away from the door. They picked up their phone and dialed 911. The dispatcher answered. Jordan whispered, barely audible, "Someone is at my door claiming to be a police officer. Are there any units at my address?" The dispatcher checked. Then her voice changed. It dropped lower, more controlled, like she was choosing her words more carefully. "There are no officers deployed to your location. Do not open that door. Lock yourself in an interior room. I am dispatching units to you now. Stay on the line." Jordan locked themselves in the bathroom. They sat in the bathtub with the phone pressed to their ear. Through the walls, they could hear the pounding continue. The voice again. "This is the police. I need you to open this door immediately. This is for your safety." The pounding went on for 8 minutes. Jordan counted. 8 minutes of someone hitting their door hard enough to rattle the frame, while a 911 dispatcher spoke quietly in their ear, telling them help was coming, telling them not to open the door, telling them to breathe. Then it stopped. Silence. Total silence. 30 seconds later, Jordan heard real sirens. 2 patrol cars pulled up. Officers approached the house with flashlights drawn. Jordan came out of the bathroom and opened the door for actual police, identified by the dispatcher on the phone, confirmed by the cruisers in the driveway. The man was gone, but he'd left something behind. Boot prints. Clear, heavy boot prints in the soft ground around the house. They circled the entire perimeter, every wall, every window, every door. The front door wasn't the only thing he'd been testing. While he was pounding on the front and shouting about a disturbance, he had, at some point during those 8 minutes, walked the entire circumference of the house. He'd checked every entry point. The boot prints stopped at each window, at the side door, at the back door, then returned to the front. He wasn't trying to get Jordan to open the front door because he wanted to come in through the front door. He was keeping Jordan focused on the front while he mapped every other way in. The police took photos of the boot prints. They canvassed the street. No one saw a vehicle. No one heard anything, or no one admitted to hearing anything. The case was filed. No suspect was identified. Jordan told me something in their message that I haven't been able to forget. They said that 8 minutes of pounding wasn't random. It was patient, rhythmic, evenly spaced. 3 hits, then a pause long enough to listen. 3 more hits, then another pause. He was listening between the knocks, tracking movement inside the house, figuring out which room Jordan was in by the sound, or the absence of sound, between impacts. Jordan moved 3 weeks later. They live with family now. They told me they installed cameras at the new house, 4 of them, covering every angle. They check them every night before bed. They also told me something that I think everyone listening to this needs to hear. They said, if I had opened that door in the first 5 seconds, which is what everything in my body was screaming at me to do, I would not be writing this post. They believe that completely. Never open your door at night without independently verifying through 911. Not through the peephole, not through the window, through the phone with a dispatcher who can confirm whether the person at your door is real. A real officer will wait. A real officer will understand. A real officer will have a car in your driveway and a partner at their side. If the person at your door doesn't have those things, they are not there to protect you. Send me your story. Link in the description. Subscribe if you're new.